Hello students around the world, welcome to another episode of the IELTS Plus English podcast. And today we're going to do something a little different. A bonus episode where I teach you to answer like me. So this is very different today. I don't know how long this episode will be in the end, and I won't do some of the features that I normally do. This is just a bonus episode where I talk you through my process of answering IELTS questions. So this is just adding to what I teach in my textbook. You'll find the textbook, the IELTS Plus Total Speaking Textbook on britplus.net, www.britplus.net. And in that textbook, the first section gives you my whole system for answering part 1, part 2, and part 3 questions. And that's what I'm going to talk about today and elaborate on some of my thoughts as I'm answering questions. So I think we'll get straight into it today. There's no sort of student challenge. I have a kind of mock exam here. This is one of the mock exams I use in my academy, and I'm going to do this mock exam. But I'll talk you through my process as I do it. So part 1. Here's what you're listening for in part 1. I'm going to give a direct answer to whatever the question is. Direct answer. I'll probably use a period, I'll pause, and then I'll try to add 1 or 2 details. So let's answer a question and see how that sounds. The first question is about my hometown. And the question is, what's the most interesting part of your town or village? The most interesting part of my town, my hometown, is the beach. That's my direct answer. The beach is it's quite a famous beach in the UK, and it's a real focal point of the community. A lot of things happen there. There are festivals, there are shows, entertainment, and families go to that beach often to spend their free time. That's the answer, and that is more than enough for a part 1 question. So you could break that down. There's a direct answer. I pause and I add 1 or 2 details. The details basically answer either what or why. That's generally what I follow. So in my case, it was the beach. And then I answered, well, what is there at the beach? Or what is the beach? Why is it famous? And that was my detail. So if you ask yourself what or why to your direct answer, that's a very good way of generating details. Let's do another one to show that again. This time, the question is about free time. What do you enjoy doing in your free time? In my free time, I like boxing. Boxing is a hobby I started a few years ago, and it's become a big part of my life. I go to the boxing gym around 3 times a week, and it's a really good way to stay healthy. So again, direct answer, and my details were basically why. Why did I say boxing? And I gave details of what boxing means to me. And that's part 1. It's simple. Part 1 should be simple. Don't say too much. The more, remember, I've said before, the more you say, the more likely it is you'll make some mistakes. But we definitely need 1 or 2 details in the answer. Excellent. Okay, part 2. So again, as I normally do, I will put 2 minutes on the clock. I won't give myself time to prepare. But to briefly tell you what's going to happen, I will start off with a direct answer. So today's question is, describe a beautiful place to visit in your country. I will just give you a direct answer. So I'm going to say, to help promote my country, I'm going to say Bath, a town called Bath. So that will be my direct answer. Now, I think a lot of students would then just list why Bath, why Bath. That's not my approach. I move into the past and I tell you a story about Bath. When did I first go there? How did I first hear about Bath? I quite strictly tell a past story because that will take up almost a minute. And it's very on topic. It's not diverging from the topic. After a minute, approximately, you will hear me say, let me tell you a little more about Bath. This is where I move into the present tense and describe that thing. That normally takes about 40 seconds, hopefully. And then you'll hear me say, for me personally, and this is the opinion section. This is where I tell you my opinion about, in this case, Bath. Finally, in the future, we move to the future and we just talk about my hope for the future. I keep it really simple, and to be honest, you probably won't hear it. I very rarely reach the future because the other sections take enough time. That's my approach. Let's hear that in action. So today's question is, describe a beautiful place to visit in your country. 2 minutes starts now. I'd like to tell you about Bath. Around 10 years ago, I went to Bath for the first time. And I was really surprised at what a beautiful city. It's a small city. What a beautiful city it was and is. I was particularly impressed by the architecture, the buildings, and the history. I was surprised to see so much Roman evidence of Roman architecture and the way they lived. And also just lovely coffee shops and restaurants. They have a nice city centre. And I remember I did a bus tour around the city on an open-top bus. And I was so impressed. We went out to the university as well and saw the surrounding countryside. It's a really lovely part of the UK. So let me tell you a little more about Bath. Bath is a very historical city in the UK, particularly for Roman history. The reason it's called Bath is because there are Roman baths there, which are large, huge baths that are heated. You can't use them now, but it was a really important part of the UK under Roman rule. And now you can see all of the evidence and do tours. It's a really interesting place. It's a city, but it's a very small city. And another interesting feature is all the buildings must use the same material, this kind of sandstone or limestone brick. So there's a lovely uniformity to the city. For me personally, it's one of my favorite cities in the UK, just because it's not so big and there's less. Okay, so as I predicted, I could get to, for me personally, but I didn't get to in the future. If I did get to in the future, here is what I would say. In the future, I hope to go back there. I've never taken my family, my daughter and wife there, so I really hope to have an opportunity to bring them there and show them this wonderful historic city in the UK. That would wrap up my answer quite well. So I hope that gives you some insight into part 2 answers, and now we're going to move on to part 3. Part 3 is quite tricky. It's tricky because I don't structure it. There's too many question types, there's too many questions, and that makes it very difficult to give a standardized structure. You shouldn't standardize it because your examiner will detect that and penalize you. That means he'll take points away for keep using the same repetitive structure. So there's nothing to teach you there, but what you'll notice is the following. I will always answer directly and I will pause. So I'll give you the direct answer to the question. I will pause. My goal is to add some details around hopefully 2 or 3 sentences, details. And again, this is just the same as part one. We're answering why or what. Perhaps one of the other W's like where, when, who, or how many. So it's really using those W questions, the W's and H's, that allows you to develop your answer. Now, that's not enough on its own. I do think that you should then go even deeper, more specific, and try to give an example. So let's listen to this in action and see how I do. The first question, we're talking about tourism. The first question is, why do you think people like to travel to different places in their free time? So here's how I would answer. Firstly, direct answer. I think people like to travel to different places because they like to experience things different from their regular lives. Okay, now I need to elaborate. I need to give 2 or 3 sentences detail. A lot of people have fairly similar lives. They have their routine. They go to work, they live in their city, their town. So in their free time, they really desire new experiences. Perhaps this is by going to other places in their country, or it could be by going to other countries and experiencing different cultures. I think a lot of people, although some people don't like the hassle of traveling, a lot of people do enjoy experiencing different cultures. That's my detail section, and that's a good length. Now, let's give an example specifically for the answer I've given so far. In Korea, a lot of people like to travel to the East Coast or Jeju Island, an island in the south, because it's so different to life in the capital city. Those places I've mentioned are slower, easier going. It's more relaxed, it's more natural, there's more nature and cleaner air. So I think this is a good reason to go to those places and get out of their normal lives in the city. So notice there, I've given a specific example about people in Korea, and that's what you should try and do too. Try not to use yourself as an example. Try to talk about society, people generally, people in your city, your country, your culture. Try to go a bit broader in your examples, a bit more sort of society-based rather than focusing on yourself. That is more likely to give you diverse answers and satisfy your examiner. Let's do one more and see that answer in action. And this time I'll give you my whole answer in one go. Let's see. Do you think there are negative impacts of tourism? Yes, I think there are many negative impacts of tourism. I would say the biggest negative impact is related to the environment. When tourists go to a location, normally they go to tourist hotspots, which are places where a lot of tourists gather, and therefore it puts a lot of strain on the environment. They litter, they throw their litter on the ground, they erode. A lot of people going in the same place will erode the land. And of course, with development, that's also destroying nature. I went to a country called Boracay. A country called Philippines, but an island called Boracay. And I saw there that there was a lot of litter on the ground and so many tourists. And it was really damaging this beautiful nature. So I was quite sad to see that. And I really felt that was a good example of the negative effect of tourism. Okay, so as you could hear there, that I went through the same process as before. Although my answer was about me, the focus was Boracay. I wasn't really focusing on me. It was more focused on using Boracay as an example of this erosion and environment issue. So that's everything I have for you today. I hope that was helpful. I hope that gave you a bit of an insight into my way of answering. Do let me know, let me know what you thought of this episode. I will do more bonus episodes in the future. And if you did enjoy it, leave a like, give me a comment, give me a review on the podcast platform. I really do appreciate that. And have a lovely week. As I always say, study really hard, and I will see you next week for a tough topic, cultural differences. So see you then. Bye-bye.